Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Kristen Smith. The tax increase on cell phones to support Pennsylvania's 911 system is on track to hit its expected revenues. The tax, passed last year, raises the monthly surcharge from $1.65 to $1.95, which is bringing in more than $97 million in the second quarter of this year, which is actually $5 million above initial estimates. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania reporter, Anthony Hennon. Anthony, so why is this good news for us?
Yeah, so it's good news because it's showing that the plan to fund these call centers is actually working. This has kind of been an issue for the past few years. Governor Josh Shapiro, in his first budget proposal, actually proposed a bigger increase rather than 195. I believe it was 204, 205, somewhere in that range. And the 195 figure was a bit of a compromise. And the goal here was to basically shore up, I guess, two things. One is funding 911 call center operations, make sure you can attract staff, et cetera, et cetera. And the other part of this was upgrading the 911 system. You know, there's a lot of talk about next generation 911, which sort of expands the ways that people can reach 911. Texting is a big, obvious one. It also improves location data. So when someone's calling for help, it's easier to pinpoint where they are and send people out. When this was going in, and the proposal was that this would bring in about $370 million by March 2025. And it looks like, we're at least on pace to hit that. It came a little above initial estimates for this past quarter in 2024, which is good news. The problem here that remains outstanding still is vacancy rates. There are many county 911 centers where the vacancy rates are, above 20%. This kind of is part of a broader issue we've been seeing across Pennsylvania, where counties are struggling to find people to fill positions from, police forces, EMS, volunteer firefighters especially is a long-running issue. So basically, if it weren't for this 911 cell phone surcharge, burden would fall on county property taxes. So this way it's a little easier to tie a fee to use rather than taxing everybody for it. I don't think we're looking at an issue that's completely solved for now or solved for the future. But for now, it's at least coming together as we had hoped.
So how does this fit into the broader conversation about solving our EMS funding crisis and the holes in our social safety net that are growing larger?
Yeah, so I think this is showing more state attention to it because for decades, most all of this has been centered on local municipalities and county governments. Most forcefully, this shows up in volunteer EMS and firefighters, where we had such a wide, civic responsibility being shared among people where there's enough volunteers to, provide these emergency services. But we've also seen rising costs from either new technology. We've seen depopulation, and especially in rural Pennsylvania. So the state is finally getting a more hands-on approach, not just leaving it to locals to figure it out. We've seen the 911 had the cell phone surcharge here that's been working. We've seen other proposals in the General Assembly for things like letting county governments or municipalities add a local tax to support EMS services or firefighter services. We've also seen the proposal of sending out more grants for encouraging municipalities to go from, these, say 18 different EMS and fire services, combining it into one or two county authorities. So there's some more talk about getting more money out there to help small organizations join together, basically to find some efficiencies and to make this work, lower the cost. I think we'll see more and more of that happening, especially as we've seen some neighboring states like Maryland have found some success with consolidation or with county-wide services for EMS. But I think the fundamental thing here is, we're losing more workers, more volunteers, and the costs are not going down. Something has got to give. And so I would not be surprised to see more of a statewide action rather than just hoping local municipalities and counties can figure out a solution.
Anthony, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.